We just celebrated our 28th wedding anniversary on the weekend, and we met through mutual friends. We were introduced and hit it off, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
I've always had a really close relationship with both my parents. I'm an only child, obviously, so I grew up playing hockey, and it wasn't just, my dad was my coach, but my mom was always really involved in everything I did.
Our life was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. We've got a beautiful daughter. We both had raging careers, busy and successful, and living life to the fullest. There is no question. And as cliche as it sounds, in a moment, it all changed. We had noticed some of her cognitive decline at the end of her career. Chris had a very successful career in software sales. So the requirement to learn new technology all the time was a very high priority in the role. And that's one of the things that we recognized early, is Chris's ability to take on new information was not what it was previously.
It started where I wasn't being able to, like the way I normally would be, to be doing something with my clients and that sort of thing, and trying to get some of my stuff finished. I'd be working at home a bit here and there. And so I was doing all that. And so I went with that for a while, and I thought it was just all the new equipment that we have now, like they just go it further. And but it really wasn't, I wasn't comfortable with my clients even to talk to them. I mean, I did, but it was not the same. So, and Mark then finally realized too that that's what I just worked until all night, all morning, trying to make up all this stuff.
So I would have been in second year university when we started noticing not huge things, but just smaller things, like in her speech and her not fully understanding what was going on in every situation. And with me being away at school, I would notice it more, I think, than my dad would, because I'd be gone for longer periods of time. So I would know who she was when I left. I'd come back, call it 2 months later, and I'd be like, oh, she's a lot different here.
In March of 2018, Chris had two cerebral hemorrhages, strokes, effectively, and many of her symptoms were magnified since that point. Her capabilities were diminished from that point forward. So her frustrations arise out of not being able to do everything that she could once do. It was actually Chris's GP that referred Chris to the memory clinic at Bruyere, and that was our first exposure to Bruyere. Bruyere was instrumental in Chris's rehabilitation after her stroke. So she did occupational therapy and speech therapy for a few months after the incident, and has been better for it since, for sure. Everything that we've been through and the experience that we've had with Bruyere has only served to reinforce what I believed to be true when I joined the board some years ago. And that is to say, the work that Bruyere does is absolutely vital in our community. It was an appointment that we had with Dr. Frank. Chris and I went in and sat down with him. It was on a Tuesday, I remember, because the results of a clinical study had just been published the day before. It was a clinical study that Dr. Frank and his international colleagues had very high hopes for success, that they might have found something that would be the trigger for Alzheimer's that would lead them to find a cure. And the results were published, and the clinical study was not successful. And Dr. Frank was completely deflated, crestfallen in his demeanor. And it struck me in that moment that he will find a cure. There's absolutely no question that he will find a cure. It does require funding. It does require us, the community, to support this kind of research, because without the support, it doesn't happen. That's exactly why Chris wanted to contribute to this today.
It's one of the things I can do. You know, I talk about my do, can't do. This is one I can do, which is to help people.